Let's face it, it's cool to hate on China in 2022. In the US, domestic politics and disagreements melt away as Democrats and Republicans alike throw down their arms and unite over their mutual disdain for China. In the UK, politicians desperate to become the next PM lay out the attacks they promised to level against China if only members of the elite will chuck them a pitiful vote. On Twitter, fake news about China is allowed to spread like wildfire, and Chinese reporters trying to debunk those lies have their blue wings clipped. Basically, being a China hater in 2022 is for the lazy. You'll be fed manageable talking points on all mainstream media. You're not going to be called a liar since Chinese is super hard and no one's going to fact check you. And despite clearly showing the signs, you won't be called a racist. But there's one thing that all China haters share, whether they're politicians, media hacks, or ordinary citizens. They all show a total lack of knowledge about the world's most populous nation. They all see China in black and white and without a shred of nuance. And they are all easily swayed by the most rudimentary lies. Today in this special episode, I'll debunk 5 huge myths about China that all haters believe. Let's get reporting. Hello, 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。Hey you guys, welcome back to Reports on China. I'm Andy. Today I'll debunk the top 5 China myths that all haters believe, which are: China is a threat to world peace. China has no democracy. Religion is illegal in China. China is bad for the environment. And China is genociding the Uyghurs. If you want to skip to the ones you're most interested in, use the timestamps under this video. Number 5. China is a threat to world peace. One of the biggest tropes you'll see in the Western media in 2022 is the China threat. The idea that China is somehow putting world peace at peril. This is a huge lie. The United States have 750 military bases outside of their own country, across 80 nations. Second place is the UK, with around 150. How many does China have? Just one. A support base in Djibouti in the Horn of Africa, which is mainly designed to cut back the risk of piracy near the Suez Canal, a hugely important maritime shipping route between Europe and Asia. While the US has invaded multiple countries, killed millions of civilians, and been at war for most of its existence, China has only entered one country militarily during the Sino-Vietnamese War in 1979, which took place along the border of the two countries. Since then, China's relations with other countries have been solely based on development and mutual cooperation, including China building the first ever high-speed rail in Laos last year, a country that was bombed by the US 260 million times over a period of 9 years, making it the most bombed nation in history. China's meteoric rise over the past 40 years, where hundreds of millions have been lifted out of poverty and the country has become the second largest economy in the world, has taken place without a single bullet fired. China is not a threat to world peace. Number 4. China has no democracy. Now, while it is true that Chinese citizens don't directly elect their president, it's not true that China has no democracy. People in Western nations have this myopic idea of democracy as simply casting a vote to decide who leads the country. But democracy isn't that narrow. China's system is called deliberative democracy, where consensus on important issues is gained through broad consultation methods. Whereas electoral democracy hinges on political compromises through the competition and confrontation of different interest groups, China's style sees consensus gained through non-confrontational political consultation, one of the biggest forms of which is the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or CPPCC. But that's not to say that elections don't take place at all. Since 2016 alone, more than 1 billion registered voters have elected 2.5 million people from different ethnic groups, sectors, political parties, and social groups to act as deputies at people's congresses all over China. On top of that, over 3 million public submissions on policy have been made in the last 10 years alone. China has its own form of democracy, even if it doesn't line up with your ideas of what democracy is. Number 3. Religion is illegal in China. On the contrary, religion thrives all over China and religious belief is protected by law. Different religions have been practiced in China for thousands of years, some imported and some homegrown. There are 5 major religions in China with millions and millions of believers. Buddhism was introduced to China from India in the 1st century AD and is now the largest religion in China, with some 13,000 Buddhist temples and 200,000 Buddhist monks and nuns. Taoism is homegrown and was formed in the 2nd century AD. It's based on the ancient philosophy of Tao, or the Way. Believers can visit 1,500 Taoist temples across China. Islam is widely practiced by around 20 million in China, and it first arrived here in the 7th century. There are currently 40,000 mosques throughout the country, according to the latest data, which means there's one for every 500 Muslims. On top of that, China has published the Quran in 10 local languages so that it can be widely read across different ethnic groups. The final 2 major religions in China are Catholicism and Protestantism, which both have significant followings despite being relatively new to China. So why do people think religion is banned in China? Well, there have been some rough patches in recent history, including the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976, where religion was largely restricted and many places of worship were taken over and repurposed. But according to Article 4 of China's Religious Affairs Regulation, the state protects normal religious activities according to law and safeguards the lawful rights and interests of religious groups, religious institutions, places of religious activities, and religious citizens. But that same regulation sets out strict parameters governing religious activity, especially since religion has been the basis of so many wars and social upheaval around the world. It says, "No organization or individual may make use of religion to engage in illegal activities that endanger state security, disrupt public order, impair the health of citizens, interfere with the educational system of the state, or otherwise impair the interests of the state, the public interest, and the lawful rights and interests of citizens. No organization or individual may create contradictions or conflicts between different religions, within the same religion, or between religious and non-religious citizens. It is forbidden to promote, support, or finance religious extremism, or use religion to undermine national unity, split the country, or engage in terrorist activities." Religion is not illegal in China, and religious belief is protected by law. But there are strict perimeters preventing religious groups from using the pretense of religion to cause trouble. Number 2, China is bad for the environment. There seems to be this idea around the globe that China is bad for the environment and doing nothing to stop global warming. This couldn't be further from the truth. China has reduced as much air pollution in 7 years as the US achieved in 3 decades, according to the University of Chicago. Also, did you know that China is the world's #1 producer of energy from renewable sources? China creates 3 times more energy from wind, solar, and water than the #2 spot, the USA. Last year, China's renewable energy utilization amounts to the equivalent of saving 750 million tons of standard coal, helping reduce carbon dioxide emissions by about 1.95 billion tons. In terms of power generation, the country's renewable energy generated 2.48 trillion kilowatt hours of electricity last year, accounting for 29.7% of the total power generation. On top of that, China has announced that it will achieve peak carbon dioxide emissions by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060. China is absolutely devoted to reducing pollution and saving the environment. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying or deluded. Number 1, China is genociding the Uyghurs. Over the past few years, there has been many news media reports, NGO reports, government reports, and even human rights group reports claiming there's a mass genocide and human rights abuses going on in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. This is the lie of the century, and it's designed to weaken the Xinjiang region, which would then weaken China and slow its peaceful rise. I've produced many videos debunking all of these claims, which I really recommend you watch for yourself. I'll put the links under this video. But if I had to tell you just one single fact to show you that there's absolutely zero credible evidence of any such human rights abuses going on in Xinjiang, it would be this. Last year, a fake trial called the Uyghur Tribunal took place in London, England. and it was meant to be the be-all and end-all of investigations into these Xinjiang claims. Many anti-China forces, including the US, pinned their hopes on this tribunal so that they could finally convince the world once and for all how evil China is. But by the end of the tribunal, they had nothing but anecdotal evidence. Basically, people accusing China of genociding the Uyghurs, but without a single photo, document, video, or otherwise to prove guilt. But the key here is that the so-called Uyghur Tribunal approached both the UK and US governments, requesting that they submit all of the evidence they have that led to their conclusion that genocide was taking place in Xinjiang. Guess what? Both governments ignored the tribunal's requests and did not supply a single piece of evidence. Why? Because it doesn't exist. There is no genocide or widespread human rights abuses going on in Xinjiang, and I really recommend you watch my other videos on the matter for more details. Well, that's it, you guys, the top 5 China myths that all China haters believe. How many did you believe? Did you learn anything? Let me know what you think down below, and as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.